Two of our guests this afternoon have direct experience of this place. And the first is Deidre, who was a mother here in Bessborough in 1981. Ladies and gentlemen, Deidre Wadding.
Good afternoon, everyone. I don't know what I've done with the mic now, it's just a little too high. So I have a kind of inbuilt megaphone. So yes, I was here in 1981. My name is Deidre Wadding. I'm from Wexford. When I was here, I was Kira. Because that's one of the things that happened to us, isn't it? We walked in those red doors and we became someone else. Someone else walked down those corridors and someone else went through everything we went through here. And someone else walked out those red doors, leaving a precious part of themselves, their own flesh and blood, behind us. And did we slot back then into becoming who we had been originally before we walked through those doors filled with the guilt and the shame that was heaped upon us? So I will uncover my hair and I will bare my shoulders and I will stand here unashamedly as a full human being with the life force of sexuality flowing through me, because that is part of who we are as human beings. And we were made to suffer for that. We were made to feel we had done something wrong just by being full human beings. We never did anything wrong. The shame was never ours, and is not still. The shame is upon this state in collusion with the Catholic Church. And I, flippantly, perhaps yesterday, in an interview on a totally different matter with the Brendan O'Connor show, when I was asked, what made you become a pagan? Because that is what I am. I said, the Catholic Church made me a pagan. And that is the full truth. Because for a young sexual woman, fully in all that she is, there was no place for me, for any of us in that church. And this is not to disrespect anybody's beliefs, because I respect people's beliefs, whatever they are. But I have no respect for that corrupt institution. None whatsoever. And if they want to redeem any of the damage they have done, then let them get on with it. Let them sort out redress and let the government get on with it. It is absolutely disgraceful and outrageous that just heels have been dragged all the way along. Everything, all the information is like pulling teeth. And we're not going to stand for it anymore. But one positive thing for me that happened in this building here was solidarity, was the counterbalance to all of the sorrow, the support that we girls had for each other, the knowing that you'd made some friends, and then when you walked away, and your child, like my son, is in that nursery, that you know there are good people who will take care of him. We weren't without the odd moment of black humour either. I clearly remember, was it Lionel Richie sang It Started With a Kiss? I remember a bunch of us working in the nursery. I don't know if anyone here remembers this. And we were doing the usual changing the babies of the girls who had gone and feeding them. And that came on the radio. And we all looked around at each other and, yeah, you know, that black Irish humour, it started with a kiss, yeah. So solidarity is hugely important still. And I think we probably all know there is a bit of factioning. There are difficulties between different groups within the survivors. And we're going to get nowhere until we all pull together. Adoptees are our children. And the mothers are your mothers. And we have to understand that we are a whole group of traumatized people. It is a trauma that will never fully heal. It can't. And one of the things that helps us with healing of any trauma is to get to the point where we can make peace with it, where we don't have regret. And that is something that can never happen in the adoption scenario, because you can never not regret being parted from your own flesh and blood. And if we're really lucky, and I am, we get to have contact down the line. But we still have that intergenerational issue. My son has a relationship with me, but I'm not his mammy. The mammy is the woman who brought him up. My grandson has a relationship with me, but I'm not his nana. His nana is his dad's adoptive mother. So it goes on and it goes on through the generations. And we can never not regret that. It's not possible. If we're lucky, we get to know, and the last speaker spoke about that knowing, not knowing, hoping, not hoping. If we're really lucky, we get to know how things went. We get to know that I won't even call it a choice, but that decision that was either enforced or manipulated, where we were made to believe that we would be the most, these words were said to me, the most selfish girl in the world if you kept that child. Because look at all that they could have, with two parents who could provide for them and all of that. That's the brainwashing that happened. Even if it wasn't full-on enforcement, that kind of emotional brainwashing was put upon all of us. So for adoptees who go into not good situations, for adoptees who have had awful lives, that is your mother's nightmare that happened. And it's important to have compassion for the choices that were made or not made for us. And it is important for us as the mothers to have compassion for the trauma that the adoptees hold. And this is where this whole redress thing about the 6 months limit is absolutely ridiculous, because it doesn't in any way understand what the source of the trauma is. The trauma is not about how long. The trauma is about the separation. The trauma is about being removed from your family of origin, from your identity. And every human being has a right to their own information. Every human being has a right to know their identity and to know where they came from. And so, in that old Irish phrase of Níneart go curla céile, there's no strength until we pull together. That is what we need to do, and we need to keep doing it relentlessly. And I would say that compassion should extend to all oppressed groups in our society, to all marginalised. We know what it was like to be sent into exile for a greater or lesser time. We know what it was like to be separated from family. We know what it was like to be banished, to have shame and guilt heaped upon us, to be a pariah, to be different. So I would like to also see us stand with other marginalised and oppressed groups, the LGBT community, refugees. And let's not forget our traveller community, who probably suffered more than any of us in terms of the mother and baby homes and the institutions. So let's all pull together here. So to finish up, I would like to read for you a poem I wrote in the last few years called House Name. There are moments in time that change us forever, like Robert Frost's two roads diverging in a yellow wood. Trajectories coexist, parallel lines of possible lives. As we poise at the crossroads of decisions, choices to be made by us or for us, thresholds we cross not knowing there is no return, no going back to how or who we were before. I remember one such threshold. The journey that led to it in my father's car began really months earlier. Young love or mortal sin? Clueless foolishness, blind to the inevitable consequences. Phrases from that time haunt me still. My mother's voice on the phone. Yes, sister, it's a moral problem. That's what I was. Prostitute, whore, animal, a moral problem. That's what made the wheels turn after all that. And so in my father's car, we drove up to the threshold, the door through which I would step, never to be the same again. And as I entered those doors, I did in fact become someone else. Ciara walked the corridors of Bessborough. Ciara cried in her little nun's cell at night. Ciara looked after babies and cleaned the chapel and went to confession, where the priest asked her, "Did you enjoy it?" and advised her, well-meaningly, find a nice boy and marry him as quickly as possible. She, Ciara, as she now was, supposed it was to deal with this moral problem. Ciara gave birth in that place of long corridors, highly polished wooden staircases and scrubbed floors, induced for social reasons. Another phrase that haunts my memories. Lying on a metal trolley, hooked up to a drip, a difficult birth, a beautiful boy, a bloody hemorrhage, a slicing of flesh to pull him out. 3 days later, they rolled away the stone, let her out of bed and to see her son for the first time, and the last time for 19 years. Ciara stepped through the great wooden doors once more, and Deidre, or was it, sat into her father's car, her tears falling as heavily as the rain that poured down the glass. I am both of these women, or am I? Did Ciara replace the me that I was? Because one thing is true, I was never the same again. Thank you so much. I'm really honoured to be invited here, and just to say, I have avoided coming back to this place. This is the first time I've set foot on it for 42 years, so thank you.